Dr. David Rodriguez loved his quiet mornings at the university lab, every day at 6 a.m. He would unlock the heavy metal door to Building C and walk down the empty hallway. His footsteps echoed in the silence. The smell of cleaning chemicals and old coffee always greeted him. This Tuesday morning felt just like any other. David worked as a scientist who studied milk. Yes, milk. People often laughed when he told them his job. But milk was actually pretty amazing stuff. He spent his days looking at tiny particles under microscopes and running tests on different types of dairy products. His lab was filled with white refrigerators humming quietly, test tubes lined up in neat rows, and machines that beeped softly throughout the day. He hung his jacket on the usual hook and walked over to start his coffee machine. The morning routine was always the same: check emails, review yesterday's test results, and plan the day ahead. David liked routines. They made him feel calm and in control. But something felt different today. There was a strange sound coming from the supply closet at the back of his lab. It sounded like someone was breathing heavily, almost gasping for air. David stopped pouring his coffee and listened carefully. The sound came again. His heart started beating faster. Maybe it was just the old ventilation system acting up again. The building was over 50 years old, and weird noises happened all the time. But this sound was different. It was too regular, too much like actual breathing. David walked slowly toward the closet door. His hands felt sweaty. He reached for the door handle and paused. What if someone had broken into the building? What if they were hiding in his closet? David had never been the brave type. He was more comfortable with test tubes than confronting strangers. But curiosity got the better of him. He turned the handle and slowly opened the door. What he saw made him drop his coffee mug. It crashed to the floor, sending hot liquid everywhere. Inside the closet, curled up between boxes of laboratory supplies, was something that definitely wasn't human. The creature was small, about the size of a 10-year-old child, but its skin was gray like old concrete. Its head was bigger than a normal person's head, and its eyes were huge and completely black. No white parts at all, just deep black pools that seemed to reflect the light from the hallway. The thing was wearing what looked like a silver jumpsuit, but it was torn and had strange burn marks on it. David stood frozen, his mouth hanging open. His brain couldn't process what he was seeing. This had to be some kind of joke. Maybe his colleagues were playing a prank on him. But the creature looked so real, so detailed, and it was clearly in pain. The gray being opened its mouth and made a weak sound. Then, to David's complete shock, it spoke in English. The voice was scratchy and high-pitched, like someone who had been shouting for hours. "Please, help me," the creature whispered. "I am dying." David blinked hard several times, hoping this was all just a weird dream brought on by too much late-night pizza. But when he opened his eyes, the creature was still there, still looking at him with those enormous black eyes. What are you?" David managed to stammer. The being tried to sit up straighter, but winced in pain. "My name is Kex. I come from far away. Very far. My ship, it crashed near here 3 days ago. I have been hiding, looking for help." David's scientific mind started working again. If this was real, and not some elaborate hoax, then he was looking at the discovery of the century. No, the discovery of all time. An actual alien being, right here in his milk research lab. "Prove it," David said, his voice shaking. "Prove you're really from another planet." Kex reached into a pocket on his damaged suit and pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal. When he touched it, the crystal began glowing with a soft blue light. Then it projected a three-dimensional image into the air between them. The image showed a planet with purple skies and 2 suns, with strange cities that seemed to float in the clouds. "This is my home," Kex said weakly, "but I cannot return. My ship is broken, and I am getting sicker every hour." David knelt down, next to the closet, still not quite believing what was happening. "Sick? What's wrong with you?" "My people, we need a special kind of food to survive. Without it, we die slowly. The crash destroyed all my emergency supplies. I have maybe 2 more days before." Kex's voice trailed off. "What kind of food?" David asked. Kex looked directly into David's eyes with an expression that was unmistakably desperate. Milk. My species needs milk to live. But not just any milk. It must be prepared in a special way, with the right balance of proteins and minerals. Do you? Kex paused, his breathing becoming more labored. Do you have enough milk for two? The question hung in the air like a challenge. David looked at this strange, gray creature who claimed to be from another world, asking him to share something as simple as milk. His rational mind told him this was impossible. Aliens didn't exist. They certainly didn't crash land in university towns and hide in laboratory closets. But his heart told him something different. The fear and desperation in Kex's eyes looked completely real. And if there was even a tiny chance that this was genuine, could David really walk away and let another intelligent being die? David thought about his own life. He lived alone in a small apartment. His daily routine was simple. Wake up, go to work, study milk samples, go home, watch television, sleep, repeat. It wasn't a bad life, but it wasn't exactly exciting either. Now, suddenly, the universe had dropped the most incredible opportunity right into his lap. I have milk, David said quietly, but I need to understand more about what you need. Kex's eyes seemed to brighten slightly. You will help me. David took a deep breath. He was about to make a decision that would change everything. Yes, he said, I'll help you, but you have to tell me the truth about everything. And we need to figure out how to do this without anyone else finding out. For the first time since David had opened the closet door, Kex smiled. It was a strange smile on that gray, alien face, but it was definitely a smile. Thank you. Kex whispered, You may have just saved my life. David helped Kex move from the uncomfortable closet to a more comfortable spot behind one of the large refrigerators where he would be hidden if anyone else came into the lab, as he did. David realized his quiet, predictable life had just become the most extraordinary adventure he could ever imagine. The question was, what would happen next? The first thing David learned about helping an alien was that it was way harder than he expected. After agreeing to help Kex, he thought it would be simple. Just give the guy some milk, right? Wrong. Very wrong. That first day, David brought a carton of regular milk from the campus cafeteria. He poured a glass and handed it to Kex, feeling pretty good about himself. He was helping save an alien life. How cool was that? But within minutes of drinking the milk, Kex doubled over in pain. His gray skin turned an alarming shade of green, and he started making choking sounds. David panicked, thinking he had just poisoned his new alien friend. What's wrong? What did I do? David asked, kneeling beside Kex. This milk. It's wrong. Kex gasped between painful breaths. The proteins, they're not balanced correctly. My body can't process them. David felt terrible. He was supposed to be a milk expert, and he couldn't even give an alien a simple glass of milk without making him sick. Tell me what you need. Exactly what you need. Kex spent the next hour explaining his species' complicated relationship with milk. It wasn't just about drinking any old milk. His people had evolved on a planet where the local animals produced milk with very specific protein chains and mineral compositions. The milk had to have the right calcium levels, the right fat content, and something called amino acid sequencing that David had never heard of before. On my planet, Kex explained, we have learned to modify milk from different animals to match our biological needs. But here on Earth, your milk is, how do you say, primitive. David tried not to feel offended. After all, humans have been drinking milk for thousands of years. But apparently, compared to alien technology, Earth's dairy industry was like using stone tools. The real problem was that Kex needed almost 3 liters of this special milk every day. Not 3 liters total, but 3 liters of perfectly balanced, scientifically modified milk. David did the math in his head and realized he was looking at a serious challenge. First, there was the money problem. David's salary as a university researcher wasn't huge. He lived comfortably, but buying 3 liters of premium milk every day would cost him more than his monthly grocery budget, and that was just for regular milk. The special organic, grass-fed, hormone-free milk that seemed to work better for Kex cost even more. Second, there was the time problem. David found himself spending every spare moment researching milk composition and running tests on different brands and types. He would sneak samples into his regular lab work, trying to figure out which combinations of proteins and minerals made Kex feel better versus which ones made him sick. His office desk became covered with notebooks filled with measurements and observations. Whole milk from local dairy farm caused stomach upset. Low-fat milk with added calcium, better tolerance, but still not optimal. Goat milk, surprisingly good results, but too expensive for daily use. The weirdest part was that Kex's needs changed throughout the day. In the morning, he needed milk with higher protein content. By afternoon, his body craved milk with more fat. In the evening, only milk with specific mineral balances would work. It was like trying to solve a constantly changing puzzle. David started carrying a small cooler with him everywhere, filled with different types of milk samples. His colleagues began giving him strange looks when he would excuse himself every few hours to check on an experiment. He told them he was working on a new research project about milk absorption rates, which wasn't technically a lie. The stress was getting to him. David had always been a neat, organized person, but now his apartment was cluttered with empty milk containers, scientific journals about dairy chemistry, and pages of notes about alien biology. He was losing sleep, staying up late every night to read about protein structures and mineral absorption. Worse, his own health was suffering. He was spending so much money on special milk for Kex that he started cutting back on his own food. Dinner became crackers and whatever free snacks were available in the faculty lounge. He lost weight and developed dark circles under his eyes. But the hardest part was keeping everything secret. David had never been good at lying, and now he was living a double life. When his lab supervisor asked why he was using so much testing equipment, David had to make up stories about new research projects. When his neighbor asked why he was carrying so many grocery bags every day, he had to pretend he was really into making smoothies. One evening, while David was in his lab preparing Kex's nighttime milk mixture, his colleague Dr. Patricia Wong stopped by unexpectedly. "Working late again?" she asked, poking her head through the door. David quickly moved to block her view of the back corner where Kex was hiding. Just finishing up some tests, Patricia looked around the lab suspiciously. "Dave, are you okay? You've been acting really strange lately. And why does your lab smell like? Is that goat milk?" "I'm fine," David said, trying to sound casual. "Just trying some new experimental approaches." "Experimental approaches to what?" "Your research is about cow milk protein analysis. What do you need goat milk for?" David's mind went blank. He couldn't think of a single reasonable explanation. "I'm just comparing different milk types. For science." Patricia didn't look convinced, but she didn't push the issue. After she left, David realized he was in deeper trouble than he thought. People were starting to notice his weird behavior. How long before someone figured out what was really going on? Meanwhile, Kex was getting stronger, but he was also getting more demanding. He started complaining about the taste of earth milk and asking for more variety in his diet. He wanted David to try mixing milk from different animals, or adding specific vitamins and minerals that weren't easy to find. "On my planet," Kex would say, "we have milk that tastes like sweet fruits and flowers. This earth milk is so boring." David wanted to scream. Here he was, sacrificing his savings, his sleep, and his sanity to keep Kex alive. And the alien was complaining about the taste? But then David would look at Kex's big black eyes and remember that this being was completely alone on a strange planet, depending entirely on David for survival. The breaking point came when David realized Kex wasn't getting better fast enough. Despite all his efforts to create the perfect milk combinations, Kex still had days when his skin turned bluish and he struggled to breathe. During one scary episode, Kex collapsed completely and David thought he was going to die right there in the lab. "I don't understand," David said, holding Kex's hand as the alien recovered. "I'm giving you everything you asked for. Why isn't it working? Kex looked up at him with tired eyes. There is something I have not told you. The milk on my planet. It contains more than just proteins and minerals. It has energy frequencies from our sun. Electromagnetic properties that your Earth milk does not have. Without these frequencies, I can survive for a while, but not permanently. David felt his heart sink. Energy frequencies, electromagnetic properties. He was a milk scientist, not a physics expert. How was he supposed to create electromagnetic frequencies in milk? How long do you have? David asked quietly. Maybe a few more weeks with the milk you are giving me, but without the proper energy treatment, I will slowly get weaker until... Kex didn't finish the sentence. David sat in his lab that night, surrounded by empty milk containers and failed experiments, facing the horrible truth. Despite all his efforts, despite sacrificing everything to help Kex, it might not be enough. He was just one person with limited knowledge and resources. Maybe it was time to get help. But that would mean revealing Kex's existence to other people. It would mean losing control of the situation and possibly putting Kex in danger. David looked over at his alien friend, sleeping peacefully behind the refrigerator, trusting David completely with his life. The weight of that responsibility felt heavier than ever. What was he going to do? David woke up on Monday morning feeling like he hadn't slept at all. His alarm clock showed 5:30 a.m., but he had been tossing and turning since 3 a.m., thinking about Kex's condition. The alien was getting weaker despite all of David's efforts, and David felt completely helpless. He dragged himself out of bed and looked in the bathroom mirror. The face staring back at him was almost unrecognizable. Dark circles under his eyes, hollow cheeks from losing weight, and hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it all night. His neighbors probably thought he was having some kind of breakdown. At the lab, things got worse. David's supervisor, Dr. Robert Chen, was waiting for him when he arrived. "David, we need to talk," Dr. Chen said, his voice serious. "Your research reports are 3 weeks overdue. The university is asking questions about your progress on the milk protein project, and frankly, I'm worried about you. You look terrible." David's stomach dropped. The milk protein project was his official research assignment, the one that paid his salary. He was supposed to be studying how different cow breeds produce milk with varying protein levels. But for the past month, all his time had been spent on Kex's survival. "I'm sorry, Dr. Chen. I've been working on some additional experiments that got a bit complicated," David said, trying to sound confident. "What kind of experiments? I haven't seen any documentation or requests for additional funding. And Patricia mentioned you've been using equipment for unauthorized tests?" David felt trapped. He couldn't tell the truth, but his lies were getting harder to maintain. "It's just some personal research. I'm paying for the supplies myself." Dr. Chen frowned. "Personal research? David, this is a university lab, not your private playground. I need those reports by Friday, or we're going to have to discuss your future here." After Dr. Chen left, David slumped in his chair. If he lost his job, he wouldn't have access to the lab equipment that was keeping Kex alive. But if he focused on his official work, he wouldn't have time to help Kex. It felt like an impossible situation. Things got even more complicated when David's credit card was declined at the grocery store. He was standing in line with his usual collection of expensive organic milk products when the cashier told him his payment wouldn't go through. "Can you try again?" David asked, embarrassed. "I've tried it 3 times, sir. Do you have another card?" David checked his wallet. His other credit card was already maxed out from buying special supplements and testing equipment for Kex. His bank account was empty. He had been spending over $400 a week on Kex's milk requirements, and his savings were completely gone. "Never mind," David mumbled, leaving the groceries at the checkout counter and walking out of the store empty-handed. Back at the lab, he found Kex looking weaker than ever. The alien's gray skin had a bluish tint, and his breathing was shallow and labored. "I couldn't get your afternoon milk," David said quietly. "I'm having some financial problems." Kex nodded weakly. "I understand. You have already done more than anyone could expect. But David, I must tell you something important. My condition is getting worse faster than I thought. What do you mean? Kex struggled to sit up straighter. Without the proper electromagnetic frequencies in the milk, my body is starting to shut down. I can feel my organs beginning to fail. I have maybe 1 week left, possibly less. David felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. 1 week after everything they had been through, after all his sacrifices. Kex was still going to die. There has to be something we can do, David said desperately. Some way to create those electromagnetic frequencies you need. There might be, Kex said slowly, but it would require equipment and knowledge that you do not have. You would need someone who understands both biology and advanced physics. Someone who could help modify your Earth technology to replicate the energy patterns from my planet. David's mind raced. He knew exactly who Kex was talking about, Dr. Lisa Park, the brilliant physicist who worked in the building next door. She specialized in electromagnetic field research and had published papers about energy frequencies in biological systems. She was also one of the smartest people David had ever met. But asking for Lisa's help would mean revealing Kex's existence to another person. It would mean trusting someone else. With the biggest secret in human history. What if Lisa didn't believe him? What if she thought he was crazy and reported him to the university administration? Even worse. What if Lisa did believe him and decided to tell the government? David had seen enough movies to know that when aliens were discovered, they usually ended up in secret government facilities being studied like lab rats. The thought of Kex being taken away and locked up somewhere made David feel sick. I don't know if I can trust anyone else, David said. I understand your fear, Kex replied. But look at me, David, really look at me. Do I look like I have much time left? David looked at his alien friend and saw the truth. Kex's condition was deteriorating rapidly. His big black eyes were becoming dull, and his skin was taking on an alarming grayish-blue color. The alien who had been talking and moving around just weeks ago could now barely lift his head. That evening, David sat in his empty apartment, staring at Dr. Lisa Park's business card. He had pulled it from the university directory and had been looking at it for 2 hours. Trying to work up the courage to make a decision, his phone rang. Interrupting his thoughts, it was his sister calling from across the country. Hey Dave, how are things going? You sound stressed in your emails lately. I'm fine, David lied. Just working on a difficult project. Well, don't work yourself to death. Remember what Mom always said, sometimes you have to ask for help when things get too big to handle alone. After hanging up, David realized his sister had accidentally given him the answer he needed. His mother had always taught him that asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign of wisdom. She used to say, pride is a luxury you can't afford when lives are at stake. David looked at Kex's business card again, then picked up his phone and dialed Lisa's number before he could change his mind. Dr. Park, this is David Rodriguez from the biochemistry lab. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I need your help with something extremely important and extremely secret. Can you meet me at my lab tonight? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. David, are you okay? You sound different. I'm fine. But I have something to show you that will change everything you think you know about the universe. But I need your word that you won't tell anyone else about this, no matter what. Another pause. David, you're scaring me a little. What's this about? David took a deep breath. This was it. The moment when everything would either get better or fall apart completely. I can't explain it over the phone. Just, can you come to my lab at 9 p.m.? And Lisa, bring your electromagnetic field equipment. We're going to need it. After he hung up, David sat back in his chair and wondered if he had just made the best decision of his life or the worst mistake he could possibly make. In 3 hours, he would find out which one it was. Either way, there was no turning back now. David spent the 3 hours before Lisa's arrival pacing around his lab like a caged animal. He kept checking on Kex, who was barely conscious now, and rehearsing different ways to explain the situation. How do you tell someone that an alien is hiding in your laboratory without sounding completely insane? At exactly 9 p.m., there was a soft knock on the lab door. David's heart started pounding as he opened it to find Dr. Lisa Parks standing there with a large equipment case and a very worried expression. "David, what's going on? You look absolutely terrible," Lisa said as she stepped inside. "I've been thinking about your phone call all evening, and I'm genuinely concerned about you." Lisa was in her early 30s, with short black hair and glasses that she constantly adjusted when she was thinking. She was known around the university for being incredibly smart, but also very practical and down to earth. If anyone could handle what David was about to show her, it would be Lisa. "Before I show you anything," David said, "I need you to promise me something. Whatever you see here tonight, you cannot tell anyone else. Not the university, not the government, not even your closest friends. Lives depend on this secret." Lisa set down her equipment case and studied David's face carefully. "David, you're really starting to worry me. Are you in some kind of trouble? Do you need help with something illegal?" "It's not illegal," David said quickly. "It's just impossible. At least, it should be impossible. But it's happening, and I don't know what else to do." David led Lisa toward the back of the lab, his hands shaking slightly. "Lisa, do you believe in life on other planets? Well, scientifically speaking, the universe is so vast that it's almost certain that life exists somewhere else. But if you're asking whether I think aliens have visited Earth," Lisa paused and adjusted her glasses. "David, please tell me you haven't gotten mixed up with some UFO conspiracy group. Just keep an open mind, okay?" David walked over to the large refrigerator where Kex was hidden and gently called out, "Kex, there's someone here who might be able to help us." Lisa watched in confusion as David seemed to be talking to empty air. Then, slowly, a small gray figure emerged from behind the refrigerator. Lisa's reaction was immediate and dramatic. She stumbled backward, knocking over a chair, and her equipment case crashed to the floor. "What? Who? That's not..." Lisa stammered, pointing at Kex with a shaking finger. Kex, despite his weakness, managed to speak in his scratchy voice. "Hello, Dr. Park. My name is Kex. I apologize for frightening you, but I am in desperate need of your scientific expertise." Lisa stood frozen for a full minute, just staring. Then she did something David hadn't expected. She started laughing, not happy laughter, but the kind of hysterical laughter that happens when your brain can't process what you're seeing. "This is a joke, right?" Lisa said between laughs. "This is some kind of elaborate prank. Maybe for a YouTube video or something. The makeup is incredible, I have to admit." "It's not a joke," David said seriously. "Lisa, I know how this looks, but Kex is real. He's been living in my lab for over a month to prove his point." Kex reached into his damaged suit and pulled out the crystal device that had shown David the image of his home planet. When Kex activated it, the same three-dimensional hologram appeared in the air, showing the purple-skied world with floating cities. Lisa stopped laughing immediately. She walked closer to the hologram, studying it from every angle. The light patterns, the dimensional projection, this technology is decades ahead of anything we have on Earth. "Now do you believe me?" David asked. Lisa sat down heavily in the nearest chair, pulling off her glasses to clean them with trembling hands. I think I need a minute to process this." For the next hour, David explained everything that had happened, from finding Kex in the closet to the ongoing struggle with the milk problem. Lisa listened without interrupting, occasionally asking technical questions about Kex's physiology and nutritional needs. "So you're telling me," Lisa said finally, "that this being's survival depends on milk that has been treated with specific electromagnetic frequencies, and you want me to help you create this treatment?" "That's exactly what I'm asking," David said. "Kex is dying, Lisa. He has maybe a few days left without the right kind of milk." Lisa looked at Kex, who was slumped against the wall, his breathing shallow and labored. Despite her shock, her scientific curiosity was taking over. "What kind of frequencies are we talking about? What's the wavelength range?" Kex struggled to answer, his voice getting weaker. "On my planet, the frequencies come from our star. They are absorbed by the plants, then concentrated in the milk of our livestock. The pattern is complex, multiple wavelengths working together. Lisa opened her equipment case and pulled out several devices that David didn't recognize. I brought my portable field generator and frequency analyzer. If we can map the electromagnetic signature that your body recognizes as correct, we might be able to reproduce it artificially. For the first time in weeks, David felt a spark of real hope. Lisa wasn't just believing them. She was already working on a solution. The next few hours were intense. Lisa ran test after test, measuring Kex's biological responses to different electromagnetic fields. She discovered that Kex's cells reacted to very specific frequency combinations, almost like they were tuned to receive certain radio signals. "This is fascinating," Lisa said, studying the readings on her equipment. "Your cellular structure actually resonates with electromagnetic energy. It's like your entire body is designed to absorb and process these frequencies as nutrition." Meanwhile, David worked on preparing different milk samples for testing. They tried exposing regular milk to various electromagnetic fields, checking Kex's reaction to each combination. Most attempts failed, causing Kex to feel nauseous or weak, but slowly, they started finding frequencies that had positive effects. The breakthrough came at 3 a.m. Lisa had been adjusting her field generator for 2 hours, fine-tuning the frequency patterns based on Kex's cellular responses. When they gave him milk that had been treated with the new electromagnetic field, Kex's reaction was immediate and dramatic. His gray skin began to return to its normal color. His breathing became deeper and more regular. For the first time in days, he was able to sit up without assistance. "It's working," Kex said, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "I can feel my body responding to the treatment. The milk tastes correct." David felt tears of relief running down his face. After weeks of watching Kex slowly dying despite his best efforts, seeing the alien regain strength was overwhelming. But their celebration was interrupted by a sound that made David's blood run cold. Footsteps in the hallway outside the lab. Heavy, official-sounding footsteps that were definitely not those of a late-night student or cleaning. "Staff, did you hear that?" Lisa whispered. The footsteps stopped right outside the lab door. Then came a firm, authoritative knock. "Dr. Rodriguez, this is campus security. We need to speak with you about some unusual activity reported in this building." David and Lisa looked at each other in panic. Kex, despite feeling better, was in no condition to hide quickly. The lab was filled with Lisa's electromagnetic equipment and evidence of their experiments. "Dr. Rodriguez," the voice came again, more insistent this time. "We know you're in there. Please open the door." David realized with sinking heart that their secret was about to be exposed. After everything they had been through, after finally finding a solution to save Kex's life, it was all about to fall apart. The question was, what would happen when that door opened? The knocking on the lab door got louder and more insistent. David's mind raced as he tried to figure out what to do. There was no way to hide Kex or all of Lisa's electromagnetic equipment in time. After weeks of keeping this incredible secret, everything was about to be exposed. "Just a minute," David called out, trying to sound casual while his heart pounded like a drum. Lisa grabbed his arm and whispered urgently, "What do we do? Should we try to hide him?" Kex, who was feeling stronger thanks to the electromagnetic treatment, struggled to stand up. "Perhaps it is time to face the truth," he said quietly. "I cannot let you to get in trouble because of me." David looked at his alien friend, then at Lisa, who was frantically trying to think of a scientific explanation for why she was in a milk research lab at 3 a.m. with electromagnetic equipment. The knocking came again, followed by the sound of keys jingling. "Dr. Rodriguez, we're coming in," the security guard announced. The door opened, and two campus security officers stepped inside. But they weren't alone. Behind them was Dr. Robert Chen, David's supervisor, and a woman in a dark suit, who definitely wasn't from the university. "David," Dr. Chen said, looking around the lab with confusion. "What exactly is going on here?" Security reported unusual electromagnetic readings coming from this building. "And why is Dr. Park here with all this equipment?" the woman in the suit, stepped forward, pulling out an official-looking badge. Dr. Rodriguez. I'm Agent Catherine Walsh from the Department of Scientific Intelligence. We've been monitoring unusual energy signatures in this area for several weeks. David felt his stomach drop. Government agents. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. But before he could say anything, Agent Walsh's eyes found Kex, who was still partially hidden behind the refrigerator. The reaction was immediate. One of the security guards reached for his radio. Dr. Chen's jaw dropped open, and Agent Walsh calmly pulled out what looked like a small tablet and started taking pictures. Well, Agent Walsh said with surprising calm, this explains the electromagnetic readings. David stepped protectively in front of Kex. Please, don't hurt him. He's not dangerous. He's just trying to survive. Dr. Rodriguez, Agent Walsh said, I need you and Dr. Park to step away from the entity and explain exactly what has been happening. Here, his name is Kex, David said firmly. And if you want explanations, you're going to have to promise that no harm will come to him. Agent Walsh studied David's face for a moment. Dr. Rodriguez, do you have any idea how many federal laws you've probably broken by harboring an extraterrestrial being without reporting it? I don't care about laws. David said, surprising himself with his boldness. I care about saving a life. Kex was dying when I found him. He needed help, and I couldn't just let him die. Lisa stepped up beside David, Agent Walsh. From a scientific perspective, this being represents the greatest discovery in human history. But more importantly, he's an intelligent creature who was in desperate need of medical assistance. Dr. Chen, who had been standing in shocked silence, finally found his voice. David, is this why your research reports have been late? You've been taking care of an alien? Yes, David said simply, and I'd do it again. Agent Walsh looked around the lab, taking in all the equipment and empty milk containers. I suppose you're going to tell me this is something to do with your milk research. For the next hour, David and Lisa explained everything. Agent Walsh listened without interrupting, occasionally asking technical questions about Kex's biology and their electromagnetic treatment discovery. To everyone's surprise, she seemed more interested than threatening. The truth is, Agent Walsh said finally, we've been tracking Kex's crashed ship for almost 2 months. We found the wreckage, but no sign of the pilot. We were beginning to think he had died in the crash. Kex spoke up from his corner, his voice much stronger now. My ship's emergency beacon was damaged. I was unable to signal for help and was slowly dying from malnutrition when David found me. Agent Walsh turned to David. Dr. Rodriguez, what you did was incredibly risky and technically illegal. But you also saved the life of what appears to be a peaceful extraterrestrial visitor. That puts us in a very unusual situation. David braced himself for rest, but Agent Walsh surprised him again. The Department of Scientific Intelligence has protocols for situations like this, though we've never actually had to use them before. We're authorized to establish controlled contact with non-hostile alien visitors. What does that mean exactly? Lisa asked. It means, Agent Walsh explained, that instead of taking Kex to a secret government facility like you've probably seen in movies, we're going to set up a proper research partnership right here at the university. Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Park, how would you feel about continuing your work with Kex, but with official support and funding? David couldn't believe what he was hearing. You mean we can keep helping him and we won't get in trouble? More than that, Agent Walsh said. The government is very interested in your electromagnetic milk treatment. It could have applications for human medicine. We want to fund a full research program with you two as the lead scientists. Dr. Chen, who had been quiet during most of this conversation, suddenly perked up. Wait, are you saying the university is going to get government funding for alien research? Do you have any idea how prestigious that would make us? Over the next few weeks, everything changed dramatically. David's tiny lab was expanded into a full research facility. Lisa brought in her entire physics team to study Kex's technology and biology. The electromagnetic milk treatment was refined and improved until Kex was healthier than he had been since arriving on Earth. But the biggest surprise came when Kex's people finally located him. A small, sleek ship landed quietly on the university campus one evening, and three beings who looked similar to Kex emerged to meet with the research team. "We have been searching for our colleague for many months," the leader of the group explained. "When we finally detected his life signs, we were amazed to discover he was not only alive but in good health. Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. Park saved my life," Kex told his people. "They developed technology to recreate the nutritional frequencies I needed to survive." The alien leader turned to David. "We understand you sacrificed much of your own resources to help our friend. Such kindness between species is rare in the universe." What happened next changed David's life forever. Kex's people offered to share some of their advanced technology with Earth, specifically medical techniques that could help humans with digestive problems and nutritional disorders. The electromagnetic milk treatment that David and Lisa had developed became the foundation for revolutionary new medical treatments. David went from being a struggling milk researcher to becoming the head of the first official human-alien research partnership in history. Lisa became the world's leading expert on alien technology, and Kex chose to stay on Earth as an ambassador between the two species. 6 months later, David sat in his new office, looking out at the expanded research facility that had grown around his original lab. On his desk was a photo of him, Lisa, and Kex at the official opening ceremony of the Interspecies Research Institute. Sometimes David thought back to that morning when he first opened the supply closet and found a dying alien asking, "Do you have enough milk for two?" At the time, he had been worried about sharing his lunch milk. Now he realized the question hadn't really been about milk at all. It had been about whether he had enough compassion, enough courage, and enough hope to share his world with someone who needed help. And the answer, as it turned out, was yes, he had more than enough. The simple act of sharing milk had led to the greatest adventure of his life and opened up possibilities he never could have imagined. Sometimes the most extraordinary things begin with the most ordinary acts of kindness, and somewhere in the multiverse, other beings learned that Earth was a planet where strangers would risk everything to help someone in need. That was a reputation David was proud to have helped create.